You put out a piece of content and you put that content out and you're like, man, no one's responding. No one is even seeing this. Like, the algorithm is against me. I want to share with you the content sequence that I share with clients, but I also want to caveat and let you know that everyone is going to have different results. You are all special snowflakes, okay? So just because one client was able to generate 150,000 with this content sequence, just because I've been able to create $1 million business with this content sequence, just because another client's been able to do, like, I'm kind of harping on that, but your results are going to be different. The first thing a lot of times people, when they think about putting out content, they automatically think about social media. So they think of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. People still post on Twitter, LinkedIn. So most people think of social media platforms, and social media platforms are great for putting out content and actually bringing people in. But let's first think about, like, what was there before social media? Before social media, there was in-person media, I guess, right? So there was in-person engaging, and people would go to networking events. They would connect with local leaders. They would go to live events. So there were a lot of these in-person things that were happening that did not happen over social media. If a business wanted to get more eyeballs, they would run an ad in the newspaper. Like, there just wasn't this whole online world. So now that we're in this online world, a lot of people, the first thing that they do is go towards social media. But there's actually a lot of other ways to reach people and to create content that will sell for you over and over and over again. Not only your platforms, but being on other people's platforms as well. So that's not necessarily what we're going to be talking about today, but I am putting that inside of the challenge. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I want to cover the content sequence that my client used. And I guess I have to kind of go back and tell her story from the very start. So a couple of years ago, I created 3 or 4 different coaching programs. And essentially, I was still in the stage of my business where I was still trying to figure out what was the best thing I could deliver for clients. I knew that there were a lot of things that I could offer. There were a lot of things that I could do, a lot of things that I was good at. But I didn't quite know, like, what's the one thing that people want to buy and the one thing that I can sell and deliver. So I had the You've Got Clients program. That's what it was called at the time. So if you've seen, like, testimonials where clients talk about You've Got Clients program, that's the program that I had. I had a program called the Automated Sales Incubator. I really, really, really liked that program. I had a program called Test, Tweak, and Twerk, which was all about getting Facebook ads to work for you, because once you get them to work, you'll want to twerk. Lots of other programs. And as I went through and continued, like, creating these programs, I would work with clients here, work with clients there. And I started to realize that there was always, like, this one thing that was missing. So for clients who first came to work with me in You've Got Clients, the main thing we did was create a webinar, which is a piece of content, right? So we would create a webinar. I call it the anti-webinar, but we would create a webinar. And then from there, we would put that out there and help them get calls booked. So that was the whole goal, is to get calls booked. We didn't do any direct to sale webinar, with the exception of one client. I worked on her webinar to help her with her course. And then when clients came in the Automated Sales Incubator, a lot of times clients came in that, and what we worked on in there was we worked on getting those automated sales. So those, payment notifications that everybody wants, everyone desires to have. We would work on creating the content piece that you needed for that, which was, generally speaking, a low ticket course. So if you want to do, kind of like the automated sales process, generally speaking, you need a low ticket course. But the way that we created that low ticket course was also a piece of content. And then when we did, clients came and worked with me in the Test, Tweak, and Twerk program, which was all about Facebook ads, that's where they really needed, like, that social media content. So the first thing I want to bring your attention to is that content is not just what you put out on social media, it's what you use to sell your services, like to sell your phone call, to get people onto that consultation call with you. It's what you use to sell your low ticket offers. So it could be a sales page, but also inside of the low ticket offer, there's a strategy that we use to actually upgrade people. And then there's also content you can just put on social media. So when this client came to me, she started paying attention because I was sharing my content, right? I was doing the same content strategy that I'm going to be talking about today. And she found me because I was just sharing these specific pieces of content. Essentially, it's like 10 pieces of content that you share, and you just interchange things and like run it over and over again. I've always been the type of person that has been interested in working smarter, not harder. So with everything, I always try to find like what's the most efficient and effective way that I can do things. The reason why I've got 2 cameras going right now, it's because I don't want to have to sit and record additional YouTube videos, right? I want to just like sit one time and like, let's just record that. So regardless, okay, so we started working together on putting these content pieces together. And so when she found me, she was like, okay, she was like, I'm going to sign up for your program. And I had a low ticket program that I was running at the time. And I was like, okay, this is a kind of like the challenge, right? Like the challenge is low ticket. It's $97 general admission. And then it's $297 for a VIP ticket if you want to get your questions answered. So it's like super low ticket. And so she signed up for a low ticket program and she had an opportunity to learn from me. And one of the things that she said was, I've never heard anybody break things down the way that you break them down. Like I actually understand it. I can tell that this is what I need. So from there, she upgraded into the You've Got Clients program. I showed her how to put together the anti-webinar. And then also I shared with her the content strategy, which I call a content blitz. And that's what I'm going to explain in just a second. She started putting out the pieces for her content blitz, and she was the client that was able to make 10K in 10 days. And when all was said and done, I think she had generated like $11,000 by like the 13th or 14th day, but that's not as sexy as 10K in 10 days. Like I like that wording. So I've always just used that. And then from there, she continued generating from her coaching program. She never really knew how to speak about it, how to trigger and how to get people to move. And this is, like I said, I try to be careful because, you know, a lot of these strategies that I've learned them from a full gamut of people. So I've learned them from people will say, oh, they're a scammer, you know, they got me to, you know, spend my money, XYZ, whatever. And then I've also learned it from people who are like, oh my gosh, like this person changed my life. I can't believe that, you know, they're charging so little, et cetera, et cetera. So my point in saying that is that the strategies work. The person using the strategies has to be ethical. And so this is the reason why I don't normally share these strategies for free on like live streams or like inside of YouTube videos or like really talk about them, because I have to know that the person that I'm explaining them to understands how powerful they are and they are an ethical person. And this is why I only share them with clients. So with that said, she started going through what's called the content blitz. So if you guys have heard of the content blitz before, you may have heard me talk about it before, maybe you have not. There are a couple different stages in the content blitz, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. We're going to talk about pricing too. So before we get into this, let me take just a little quick second to tell you about the challenge. So the challenge that's coming up, it's coming up next week. So it's less than 10 days. During the challenge, I'm going to be sharing with you not only this strategy, which is just one piece, but also like talking about how to structure your content so that it positions you for the pricing that you really want. Everyone says, okay, $997, you know, $47, you know, $1,500, $3,000, whatever, like you've chosen your number, but there's a way to structure your content so clients don't even question your pricing. And if you understand how to structure your content and what wording to use and when and where and how to say it and what to emphasize and things like that, the pricing will be irrelevant and you're able to charge what you want to charge. So we are going to be talking about that. If you want to get into the challenge, you can go to latisha.tv/content. And if you go there, it'll take you to the challenge page. All right, latisha.tv/content. Okay, let's cover what she did in order to do 150K in 6 days. All right, so we got a journey that clients have to take in order for them to believe that 3 things. They have to believe you. So they have to believe that you are the one to help them with the problem that they have. They have to believe that the problem that they have can be solved. And they have to believe that the way you are helping them is the way that they will actually get results, will actually get that problem solved. So they have to believe in you, they have to believe in your method, and they also have to believe that it's possible. So a lot of times what people do when they first start sharing content is they only share content that helps people believe in them, right? Like this is an example of a piece of content that helps you believe in me. I'm saying, okay, my client was able to do this because I helped her do that. But that's not the thing that actually moves people, right? I do this for you guys because I love you and I'm trying to, help you go a little bit deeper with this stuff. But I wouldn't share this as a front-facing thing. Why? Because it's about me and it's not about the other person. It's not about the person on the other side of the computer. It's not about the person who's interested in actually getting help. They don't care about me yet. They also don't care about my client yet, because the very first thing that's going to pop up in their head when I say my client used this to create 6 figures, they're going to say, what does she do? How is she different than me? What excuse can I use and cling on to so that I can say, oh, it only worked because of this XYZ thing? So for those of you who are sharing testimonials, or you do share, how you helped clients and this, that, and the other, depending on where you structure those and where you slot that in, they might not be as effective as they could be. Join the content challenge and we'll talk more about that, okay? But as far as helping clients come to those 3 conclusions, there's a journey that every client needs to go on. It's called the Journey of Belief. This is inside of the Path to 6 Figures program, and I teach it in there inside of module 10. And I'm gonna be breaking it down even more inside of the challenge as well. So the first thing that we have to do in order to take clients along this journey of belief, so they believe those 3 things, which is belief in you, belief in your method, and belief that it's possible, is we have to tackle the belief that it's possible first. And so we do that by establishing the desire. So what do you desire? What do you want? What is your goal? And so you'll notice, well, maybe you haven't noticed because I haven't talked about this a lot, but whenever I do my launches and whenever I've done my free challenges, typically speaking, on the first day of the challenge, we always set a goal. We always say, what's your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Why are you here? What's your why? And we set that big goal. The reason that we do that is because we're starting down that path of the journey of belief. And you can do it. You don't have to only do it in a free challenge. You don't have to only do it in your social media content. Like, you do it when you have a conversation. What do you want? It makes logical sense, right? How do you know how to help someone if you don't know what they want? You might be over here saying, okay, well, I can help you to, grow your Instagram following, but that's not what they want. They actually want to grow their YouTube subscribers. Just a dumb example, but you have to understand, what does the other person want? And so we have to figure out, what is that desire? If we understand what that desire is and we know that we can actually help them, then we can help move them to the next stage of the journey of belief. From there, now we have to tackle the second thing, which is helping them to come to a belief that it's possible, but also a little bit of a belief in your method. So we're not talking about you yet, we're just talking about your method. And so this is where we come to step 2, which is having a solution, okay? So we start talking about there is a solution. And essentially what we're doing is helping people see that there's hope. If, for example, you sell health, wellness, and fitness, and the desire is, I desire to have a Coke bottle shape, then we've established that's the desire. If you know you can help clients get there, if you know you can help them achieve that Coke bottle shape, then your next step is to share with them that yes, there is a solution. And so this is where you would share that solution-based content of the specific solution, not necessarily talking about you yet, right? But you're just talking about your solution. And here's where you can kind of touch on like testimonials, but you have to be careful how you share them. You don't share them as, this client did this and they worked with me and they got this result, yay. This is where you share the story, because once again, they don't care about your client yet. They don't care about you yet. All they care about is, I have this desire, there's this thing that I want, but I don't really know if it's possible. And so that's what we're doing in these first 2 steps. The next thing that we start tackling is we start tackling their fear. Okay, so the next things that come up, as soon as you decide and you choose that you want to do something, the fears are going to come up. So that fear of, is it possible? Can I do it? Is it going to be hard? Am I going to get laughed at? Am I still gonna feel insignificant? Like, there's genuine fears that come up that people have. And if you don't know what those fears are and you're not prepared to attack them, you're gonna lose people at this stage. And it's the reason why you can't ascend people into the final stage of commitment and actually like taking action, because you haven't touched those fears. You haven't actually stared them in the face. And unfortunately, some of you guys as marketers are scared to touch on the fears because you think you're being spammy. Like, you're scared to tell people, hey, if you don't get help, you could end up in the hospital. Like, I was actually, so side story, I went to a specialist to get a sleep study yesterday. I didn't actually go to sleep. I have to order the sleep package. And on the wall, they were talking about the dangers of sleep apnea. So if you're not familiar with sleep apnea, it's basically like when you fall asleep, you stop breathing, essentially. It's dangerous, right? And on the wall, on this image, they were talking about, here's how sleep apnea affects you. Here's the, potential costs. Here's how much you could save when you get this fixed. And I'm gonna share I took a screenshot of it, I took a picture of it. I'm gonna share it and create a piece of content on it later. But like them understanding that there is a sincere consequence for not getting this fixed is what's gonna help them and allow them, it sells for them, right? It helps people to figure out, okay, well actually I do need to keep moving and try to actually get this fixed. By the way, I don't snore, in case you're wondering, but someone else believes that I do. So therefore, sleep study. All right, so once we move from desire, the solution, and the fear, then the next thing that happens is we've got to tackle the doubts that they might have. So generally speaking, what happens is as soon as people decide that, okay, this is something that I want to do, this is something that I'm interested in fixing, and you have a chance to like tackle those fears and say, okay, well, those fears are unfounded and they're not as serious as you think they are because of XYZ. Then the doubts start coming in. What are the doubts? The doubts are, typically speaking, the internal things that they're feeling and reasons why they believe they in particular cannot get help. This is where you do start to bring in your method and you. And the reason that I share this is one of the biggest doubts that my clients have is, well, I'm not going to be able to make sales because I'm an introvert. I don't want to get out there. I don't want to have to, do live streams every day. I don't want to have to do sales calls. I don't want to have to do all these things because it's going to drain me. I already know it's going to drain my energy. Therefore, I'm going to stick here and play small. I'm going to go ahead and, create this, lower ticket course only and not have any other high ticket program because I've heard that I can sell this from a pre-recorded webinar and then, okay, I don't have to, get out there and do things. And so this the reason why, I have to address those doubts. If I don't address those doubts, they're going to continue to believe those doubts in their head. And so this is why you'll notice a lot of times I talk about me creating a system and a process that works for introverts and that has worked for me and has helped me to bring clients in without feeling, spammy or stressed about doing outreach. I don't do cold DMs. My systems that I have set up bring clients to me. And that's what I help clients set up. And the reason that we do that is because a lot of my clients are introverts. So there's a reason that I talk about that. Okay. So if you don't know what those doubts are, you got to figure out those doubts as well. All right. So we got desire, solution, fear, doubt. And then the next thing is once you've tackled those things, so you tackled their desire, you've shown them that there's an actual solution that's possible to get to that desire, you tackled those fears, you tackled that doubt, then we can move into that next piece, which is hope. And this is where, like I said, I typically don't share this piece because this is where a lot of people end up getting manipulated. And if you know how to do this right, you actually can manipulate. And manipulation has always been seen as a negative thing. It's well, I didn't want to do that, but that person talked me into doing it. And the reason that this is possible is because humans have hope. We always believe if there's something that we want, we never lose hope. And it's what makes us human. The fact that we can hope and that we can see beyond. There's a reason that the slogan, "You're only one funnel away," is so powerful. Why? Because it gives you hope. You're okay, well, not this one, then maybe the next one. I'm gonna continue to hope. And I'm not saying that slogan is manipulative. All I'm saying is that if you use this in conjunction with some other things that you can use where you can bypass the whole thinking process for that person, there's people who are really good at this and they manipulate thousands of people into buying. So you have to be ethical with it. There's the reason that when I share stuff, and even at the top of this live stream, when I shared hey, everyone's gonna have a different outcome, it's because I understand how that hope, that level of hope, can cause people to do things that they wouldn't do normally. And you just have to be ethical with it. That's all I'll say about that. And so I'm not gonna go too deep into what type of content to share here because once again, this is a free live stream, but I'll be sharing more about it inside of the content challenge. And then the final stage of the journey of belief is commitment. So once someone has made the commitment and they've decided, okay, great, I believe in that it's possible. I believe that it's possible for me. I believe that it's possible with you, and I believe that it's possible through what you're doing, then this is where we have to actually get a commitment. So this is where we say, you know, sign up for XYZ, comment below, send me a DM with the word, you know, ready if you're ready. Click here to purchase, right? So whatever your call to action is, this is where we get that commitment. And different pieces of content are gonna have different levels of commitment. So when my client was doing her content blitz, she had some content that took people through this journey of belief in one piece of content and hit on all of these stages: the desire, the fear, the doubt, the hope, solution, and the commitment. She hit all of those in one piece of content. There were some pieces of content that were strictly just desire based. There were some pieces of content that were simply fear, doubt, and commitment based. So once you know not only how to structure the content, but also in what order to structure it, it actually makes your content strategy much easier. So for example, a lot of people will share, okay, here's a content calendar and you can create 30 pieces of content. Or, you know, hire me as your social media manager and I'll create content for you. If your social media manager doesn't understand the psychology behind the content they're creating, all they're gonna end up doing is creating a pretty Instagram for you. And so you'll have content, yeah, you'll have words out there, but those words won't be doing anything to actually bring people on this journey and take them from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 and ultimately where you want them to be. So when my client did 150K, she did it all from her Facebook profile, which surprisingly, like, you know, people say, oh, I don't like Facebook, and I hadn't liked Facebook in a while. But it's like almost everybody's on Facebook, right? They're paying attention. Not only that, the buyers are on Facebook. There's still people on TikTok. It's still a little bit of a younger platform. There's people on Instagram. Most of the time people go to Instagram for inspiration. And so it's a great place to share your inspirational content. And yeah, you can share some call to action content there as well. But every platform is a little bit different. And so that's the other thing. You got to know where to put the content, which platform you should be putting it on, how to structure it and sequence it so that, you know, people are seeing the right thing at the right time, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's the reason why, like, for example, you might share some content if you're doing this strategy and you might not get very many responses underneath, right? You might not get a lot of comments, a lot of likes, but then suddenly you see like, oh, I got a bunch of calls booked. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because there's specific content that we use when we want to speak directly to our buyer. And then there's other content that we use when we want to kind of manipulate the algorithm just to get more visibility. And it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the master plan. If you're creating content but not converting enough buyers from that content, then I've got something good for you. Research shows that within 7 seconds, people will create 11 impressions of you. I haven't even shared my name and you already know whether you trust me or not. Why is that? Because once we formed our opinion, that perception that we have of the other person is what will cause us to either buy or pass them by. And that's what's happening to you. But the good news is that if you create the right type of content, you can actually shift a perception using 3 common psychological triggers. And even better, when you share the right type of content, you can shift those triggers without anything unethical or using any sort of sleazy marketing tactics, just like this client and this client and this one. And the best thing is that you don't need a large following or a lot of views in order to create content that converts, but you do actually need to have the right type of content. So if that's what you'd like to do, I would love to have you join us in our next challenge. During this challenge, I'm gonna share with you exactly what you need in order to create content to convert. If you have something to sell and a story to tell, then this challenge is for you. No bland business owners, please. You have to be passionate about what you do and what you offer. If you want a clear plan to gain authority and more visibility so you can reach more people, then sign up. I'll leave the link below this video somewhere here so you can sign up for the challenge. We're starting very soon. I look forward to seeing you on the challenge and helping you create more content that converts. Oh, and by the way, my name is LaTisha. It's nice to meet you.